I hope it does not really the crowd tonight. It does always get a little uncomfortable.
Things on a stupid stop and waste that is been like I had last weekend. I had a guy hired him. He walked off the job after he done the whole. So now I've got a new company, and so I'm just wondering who's around in case we have to shut off water to swap out the stop and waste. So I'm like, if I know about when you're leaving, then I can be like, okay, not him. You don't have to be on the call guy. Okay. I think he might be coming later, so he may not even need my water truck till 2 or 3. So it may have to be, I'm not sure. I just kind of was trying to plan the day just in case. Because I don't want to call you at 2 o'clock and you're like, yeah, I've been home for 2 hours. Like, no. Okay. Hey, all right, thanks so much.
All these complaints come from when it's on patrol, but he comes up and gives it the speed to take care of the complaint because now Chad Black's working for us. It's like, I would have thrown all that out and said, oh, he hasn't even started up here yet. I mean, he hasn't even worked a day up there.
Okay, we'll get going in a couple minutes here. We'll give it 3 more minutes.
What's happening? I feel like nothing's happening. It's frozen.
When a stranger returned their lost dog. The dog is a 5-year-old beagle mix named Bonnie, and she went missing on a Sunday morning. While her owners quickly asked for help on
Mike, we good? Pete? All right. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for being here to participate in this event, and also thank you for being here as an employee for the city of Orem. If all of you could reach under your chairs. Throughout the room, I've hidden absolutely nothing. I just wanted to see who was listening. So, okay, now that I have your attention, we've got a special treat for you today. But first, if I could have everyone take out your cell phone, go ahead and mute your phone or turn it off. If you do have to take a phone call, I ask you to please exit the room quietly and take that phone call out in the hall so that we can give Kathy our undivided attention. First off, Jake here in IT's got a couple things he'd like to go over, and then we'll proceed to that point. Yeah, Jake.
Hi, everybody. We've heard your complaints, particularly relating to the password policy. I think I've probably been the most vocal proponent against our password policy. When 90 days into the job, I tried to sign in the computer and get hit with that prompt to, hey, please change your password. I'm like, why? It's only been 90 days. There's nothing wrong with it. So yeah, it drives us all nuts, doesn't it? Anyways, so we have looked at our password policy, we've looked at security standards, and we've found ways to modernize our current policy. The main goal here will be every 12 months will be our new rotation of passwords. So you set it, and yeah, it'll be good for 12 months. It does come with, it does come with a little bit of modernized standard requirements, increased complexity and integrity requirements in order for us to allow it to only shift once every 12 months. That's going to be, hey, the minimum length of your password is now 12 characters. And with that, you know, not all of us are as proficient with the English language as perhaps some of the lawyers or workers of the library. So I don't know a 12-letter word off the top of my head. That said, we're going to encourage you to use passphrases instead of passwords. 12 characters is the minimum, but you can do something like, hey, whereas your old password was cookies123, you can now say, Oreos are better with milk. And just, an example of something that stands out to you, can be catchy, easy to remember, but this is now your computer sign-on password. In addition, we're going to be running periodic audits of the passwords to make sure they're not found in known compromised databases of passwords. And if your account has been flagged to have a known compromised password, you'll just be notified by IT with encouragement to change that password. I mean, the main goal here is to improve the integrity of our accounts and data, at the same time making our lives a little bit easier, not having to reset our passwords as often. If you need more questions, you can contact the help desk at 7007, or you can email helpdesk@orem.org for further questions. At the same time, we are looking to roll out this policy sometime next month, and you can expect more announcements in the city ditty or just citywide email kind of announcing, hey, this is when the change will be, this is the explicit points in the password policy, and this is what you have to do in order to make requirements. Come that time, you won't be required, when we roll out the policy, you won't be required that day to make the password policy change or to update your password, but once it expires, whenever that expiration date is, that's when you'll have to make the longer, more complex password, but then you'll be good for 12 months. Thanks.
Thank you, Jake. One last thing before I forget, after this event, we have Kona Ice coming in the smaller south parking lot just outside here for some refreshment, as well as an opportunity to visit and mingle with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Carrie.
Thanks, Jason. Just a couple of things really quick before we introduce our speaker today. We do have our Employee Appreciation Party coming up on August 25th at 11:30 a.m. It'll be at the City Center Park here, so make sure that you come. We will have Wallabies. We'll be catering it. We'll have the employee awards, a Hawaii trip, 9 Square, Cornhole, Big Block Jenga, and Human Size Connect 4. So come by, have some good times. Who wants to win the Hawaii trip? Yeah? And we will have someone a little famous there, Carlos. I'm glad you raised your hand. Stand up. Guitarlos, Carlos. Yeah. Woo! Carlos, do you have a band put together, or are we hearing just from you? Yeah, he does. A secret band. Are you gonna dress up like Kiss? Pete's got you covered for that. He's got a good wig for you. That's awesome. Cool. Okay, and we are aware that some of you are having some concerns about the new time card system. So if you don't mind either shooting Amy or myself an email with your specific concerns so that we can look at fixing those, that would be really helpful. Okay, let's introduce our speaker so we can get going. I'm honored and excited to introduce Kathy Loveless. Kathy has developed and presented executive leadership and management programs worldwide and in nearly every state in the US. She has worked with the CIA and the US Department of Defense, Interior, and Justice. She has worked with AT&T, DuPont, 3M, and many Native American tribes. Locally, she has taught classes in the Masters of Public Administration at the University of Utah. She worked for 14 years for the federal government in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Department of Interior as a public affairs officer. She has been vice president of an investment banking firm and marketing director for an independent energy firm. She holds a Master of Science degree from American University in Washington, D.C. As Miss Utah for Miss America, she spoke worldwide and achieved the wizard level of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. So our mayor would appreciate that. He's also really into magic. So let's give Kathy a big Orem welcome.
Good morning. How are you today? Who knows where this is? Do any of you recognize this? We here in our beautiful state of Utah have amazing mountains. This happens to be Monte Cristo Peak up in northern Utah by Morgan. Anybody been there? Nobody been there. I'm an international bicycler. I love cycling everywhere and anytime. And some friends and I decided we were going to go to the top of this peak and cycle down. Do you think you can get going pretty fast? We started going up first, and then we started going down and down and down. 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour on a bicycle. Anybody ever done that? A couple of you have. It's exciting, isn't it? But what starts going through your head? If you're a smart person, you're probably thinking, if I sneeze, I will be dead. That is not a good plan. So I keep going down, and all of a sudden, I see something happening as I get to the lowest level, 4,200 feet down from where I started. I notice the traffic coming toward me has stopped. And again, my brain is going, oh no. Oh no, is this what's down there? Is this going to be me? Is this what is going to happen? Is this what's going to happen? But instead, this is what I saw. And fortunately, I was able to stop and get out of that deer moose's way in time to avert disaster. How many of you have had unexpected things happen in your life? I would say that life is very unpredictable. Very unpredictable. If you would agree with me, raise your hand. Absolutely. We know it is unpredictable. How can you better prepare for what life has to offer and how you can be prepared for what's going to occur? I have 3 very important lessons. And let me just tell you, I've been around a while. I admit to it. I'm now heading into my 55th year of working full-time. And I'm going to share with you stories that I have personally experienced. I didn't just read about them in a book, and I'm sharing with you what somebody else wrote or somebody else experienced. These are my personal stories because it made the lesson real and one that I can share with you and give you background and what I learned from each occurrence. I'm going to start with the importance of visualizing your success. Do you know that you can visualize your success in every aspect of your business? You can visualize it in your personal life, in your professional life, in your athletic life, in your sports life, all of that. You can visualize your success. I think it's very important that we learn when this can start coming to us. You all know Glen Canyon Dam, right? How many of you have water skied on Lake Powell? We love water skiing on Lake Powell. Now, I'm the eldest of 6. I'm the big sister with all the big sister traits. That means I take care of all the brothers and sisters. I sewed for them, I cooked for them, I babysat them, I took care of them, right? And so big sister is looked up to, and even though I'm about 6 feet, 5'10", I'm the shortest in my family. Got the picture? And very quickly, it's evident that I'm the shortest, but I'm still the big sister. I'd started my career with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Any of you heard of that? In Washington, D.C., at the headquarters. And I'd worked back there a while, and then I came back to Utah to visit with my family. And while I was gone, they all learned how to water ski. And man, my youngest sister, she got up on those skis and she skied all around Lake Powell, and my brother did it, my other sister, my other brother, my other brother. And then they said, okay, Kathy, it's your turn. Well, I'm the big sister. I can do this. I was the leader of the family. I can do this. So I get in the water. Okay, Daddy, hit it. I mean, it can't be that hard. All my siblings can do it. Okay, Daddy, hit it. And he hits it, and I go up, and I go down. Okay, that's one try. All right, Daddy, let's try it again. Up, down, up, down. Number 3, number 4, up, down. Number 5, 6, 7, 8. At this point, my darling mother leans over the boat and says, Kathy, it's okay. You're still a good person if you can't water ski. Daddy, let's try it one more time. He hits it. Up, down. Now I've got water in my lungs and I can hardly breathe. As I'm down in that water for the 9th failed attempt, I suddenly realized I could not visualize myself being successful, standing on that water, feeling the wind against my full body. I couldn't even get that idea in my mind. And I realized I had read a book shortly there before about the power of visualizing your success if you want to have it materialize. And so I hunkered down and I forced myself to see me standing tall, holding tight, and water skiing around Lake Powell. So exhausted, but not willing to give up. I said, okay, Daddy, hit it one more time. My father pushed the throttle forward, and I felt my body start rising out of the water. I wasn't down, I was up, I was strong, and I skied all around Lake Powell. It taught me a powerful lesson. If you can't see yourself doing it, it's going to be much harder to do it. So we're going to talk about visualizing your success a little bit more. As I said, this is my first workplace, Washington, D.C. I'd been a Hinckley Institute of Politics intern at the University of Utah, and I had an internship in Washington, D.C. with the commissioner of the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Now, when I applied for the job or the internship, I wasn't quite sure what reclamation was, but of course, upon doing some research, I realized I'd literally grown up on all the reservoirs built by the Bureau of Reclamation and its local partners. And so, lo and behold, I got selected and went back to Washington, D.C. And after I'd been there 2 weeks, I'm now 22 years old, the man who was editor of their national magazine on water and power resigned. And the commissioner came to me and said, Kathy, would you like to be the editor of our national magazine on water and power? Now, I'd learned my lesson, right? I'm thinking, I was on the Hillcrest High School yearbook staff. Hillcrest High School yearbook staff, national magazine on water and power, that's about the same. I said, sure, I would love it. What I didn't appreciate then was that whole internship, it was just going to last one summer, proved to be the direction for the rest of my life in water, power, resources, cogeneration, and all kinds of very exciting things. Right, guys? Yeah. So that's where I started, in Washington, D.C. Here's another story that illustrates the power of projection and visualization. After I'd spent many years in Washington, D.C., and I had then gone to Denver and managed an 18-state program in citizen participation, getting citizen involvement in your government decision-making. And then I moved to Salt Lake and was the Regional Public Affairs Officer for the Upper Colorado region of the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. That's Utah and the 6 surrounding states. Love that niche. Then I was asked to teach at the University of Utah. And I was also working on a PhD at George Washington University in quantitative data analysis. I had started that when I moved to DC. I had spent years working on it, a lot of statistics and computer programming and all kinds of stuff. And I remember going back to Washington because I had to take the final comprehensive exams. You did written exams, and then you did 5 oral exams where you were quizzed by a panel of experts in 5 separate areas, each exam orally lasting about 2 to 3 hours. And I remember coming home to Salt Lake, totally exhausted, absolutely so tired, but one of those nights where you can't sleep because your brain is going so fast. And here is what my brain was telling me. Okay, Kathy, you've worked all these years for this PhD, worked on my doctorate at night while I worked full-time during the day. And I said, okay, but this PhD is going to mean nothing to your employment. They are not going to care at all. So here's where I was discouraged. I said to myself, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I didn't want to lose all that I had studied, even though I would now not use it on my job. So I said, okay, fantasize. In your perfect world, what would you like to have happen? And so I put on my best fantasy cap and I said, I would love the University of Utah to call me and say, Kathy, we would like you to teach a course in quantitative data analysis. Now, I wasn't ready to give up my job with the Bureau of Reclamation, and so he also had to say, and Kathy, we would like you to teach it at night, because so many of our students are working full-time. That was my fantasy. Slowly, I did fall asleep. The next morning, I went to my office on State Street in First South, went into my office. This was in the olden days when we had secretaries, and I go into my office, and the phone rings, and she buzzes me, and she says, Kathy, there's a Dr. Kemp on the phone. Hello, Kathy, this is Dr. Kemp. I'm with the Masters of Public Administration program with the University of Utah. Pause. We are wondering if you would be interested in teaching a course in... And, by the way, Kathy, our students all have full-time jobs, so the course needs to be taught at... I hung up the phone and literally got chills up my arm. Wow. I went and closed the door to my office because I had to ponder what had just happened. And as I sat there behind my desk, so grateful that the thing I had fantasized about the night before had really come true, I said to myself, is this just a once-in-a-lifetime weird thing, or has this ever happened to me before? And more importantly, can I make it happen again? And importantly, can I teach others how to make it happen in their lives? As I sat there at my desk, I realized that it had happened to me before. I come from a family of extreme modest means. There were 7 of us living in a 1-bedroom attic apartment on 3rd Avenue and M Street, downtown Salt Lake. 7 of us. And when the next child came, there simply was not room for us. So I mean modest means. Sometimes we didn't have all kinds of food, sometimes we didn't have any food. And there was certainly no money for clothing. So I sewed every article of clothing I had. At Hillcrest High School, I was in a lot of activities, and so probably 12 pictures of me in the senior yearbook. Every picture is I'm wearing an outfit not made from new fabric, but from my darling Aunt Charlotte, who lived in New York, and she sent her hand-me-downs, and I could cut them up and make them fit me. Got the picture? Got the picture? So I was on a debate scholarship at the University of Utah, and we were in the Southern California Forensic League. Southern California Forensic League means that we had to drive, because there was not money for us to take any other transportation, from Salt Lake City. We'd stop in Las Vegas. Now, our coach had 2 cataracts, and at that time could not use a car that had power breaks. So it's like this all the way from Salt Lake City to Southern California. But we did pause in Las Vegas to re-gas and to take a break. I'm standing there outside of the gas station, and I turned and looked, and over there to my right is this beautiful, sleek Oldsmobile, and it has this symbol on the side that read, Miss America pageant, Miss Nevada. I'm 18 years old. The thought came into my mind, I'm going to drive one of those cars. Now, I don't know where that thought came from. I don't know why it came. I'm going to drive one of those cars. And in 11 months, I was driving one of those cars. Things happened in the next several days of connections that I had known about. People who I had worked with started connecting the dots. Not only did I have a car, but I went on my first airplane ride from Salt Lake City to Atlantic City, New Jersey, to participate in the Miss America pageant. Now, in those days, the Miss America pageant was a huge, big deal. For me, the big deal was that was a store-bought suit. That was a $400 suit in 1968. Now, me, in my thinking, all I could think about was, how much fabric could I have bought for $400? Everything was new. Gowns, they gave me all of these gowns and awesome things. Now, my talent, as you might have guessed, was a speaking talent. Well, it started out as an acting talent. I had a dual monologue in which I started out with Shakespeare's Lady Macbeth. They've just murdered someone, and she's getting delusions, and she's trying to wipe out the imaginary blood that's on her hands, and she's saying, "Out, damn spot, out, I say." Do you guys know Shakespeare? He's great. He's great. You know him, right? Out, I say. And I have made, of course, this wispy costume for her evening gown. And then I rip off that costume, and I'm now Anne Frank. And I do the last scene where Anne Frank hears the sirens of the Nazis. After several years of being saved, she now knows it's over, and they are coming for them. And then she ends with the final statement, in spite of it all, I still know people are basically good at heart. Okay? That's what got me Miss Utah. So I'm going to do that at the Miss America pageant. Days before, we get a call from NBC, and they say, we cannot get the copyright clearances for Kathy to use the Diary of Anne Frank on NBC national television. Her father is still alive in Amsterdam. This is back before internet, back before cell phones, back before everything. We cannot get the copyright clearance in time for us to do Showtime on the main stage. She has to change her talent. My professor was Neil A. Maxwell. Any of you have heard of him? Neil A. Maxwell was a wonderful man. He was my professor. We went to him. We said, we're leaving in just a matter of days. Can you help me craft an original presentation? He said, we can't do what I had been prepared to do. And bless his sweet heart, he helped me write a wonderful presentation, a speech, which is what you're seeing me give there. Now, here's the significance. I knew that a speech in that fashion wasn't going to be as glamorous and exciting as Lady Macbeth and Anne Frank at the terrible times in their lives. But I didn't care. It didn't matter to me. I didn't really care about being Miss America. And here's why. Do you know what Miss America has to do? She has to give up college for a whole year to go travel around and doing what she does. Do you know how important college was to me? I didn't want to leave the U. In my family, education was everything and meant the world. So, I didn't become Miss America, but it was okay. I got to go back to the U. And something else happened just shortly after that. A man who was head of the International Exchange School said, "Kathy, I've seen you, I've heard you. I would like to pay all of your expenses and pay you a salary to go to Greece, Italy, Switzerland, France, and England to perform and to speak. Are you interested?" What do you think I said? Heck yes. Okay, so let's talk about vision statements. Do any of you have a cell phone or a piece of paper that you can jot down an idea or two about your vision statement? Because as I've suggested, it's very important to write these down. Your vision statement needs to encourage you and to stretch you. So a vision statement shouldn't be easy and automatic. It shouldn't be something that you can just do without trying very hard. It needs to be something maybe outrageous, maybe something that everybody tells you you can't do, you're not good at. Let your vision statement say, yeah, but this is what I want. Write down the vision statement. Next, let it be something that is a vision in every part of your life. You can have it be a vision for what your work life is like. I got to tell you, as I've already said, I'm in about my 55th year of working full-time, and I love going to work every day still. My prayer is that I can stay strong enough and healthy enough to keep working because it's that fun and that interesting. How many of you would like a job like that? We all would. And maybe you have them here. Maybe you already have it. That's awesome. Your vision can include your sports, your pastime. What things would you like to do in your fun time? I mentor a lot of people who want to become professional speakers. And a woman who just came to me, Jamie McCrazy, was an Olympic champion downhill snowboarder. And just a young, sweet thing. She's working with me now. She's 26, 7, something like that. And everything was going great for her. She had awards and trophies from all over the world until she fell and hit her head. Can life throw things at you? And we had become friends, talked on the phone. He lived in Tennessee, and we talked on the phones. At that time, I was the marketing director for a cogeneration power project building company. What that means is cogeneration meaning two, meaning the power plant takes natural gas and produces electricity, but if there is also waste heat that can be profitably used, those are two outputs, electricity and waste heat, then if you could show that that plant works, the federal government gave you some special benefits. So I was developing those kind of projects around the country. And this is a scary story, and I don't know if I should tell it. Should I tell it? Will you believe me if I tell you? Are you sure you will? All right. I'm working in Los Angeles on a $500 million project. And we've got another meeting the next day. I go to bed that night, and I am awakened because I have had the most vivid dream. This dream is so vivid, I have to get out of bed and write it down in my journal. I'll describe to you the dream. I walk into what I know is, it looks like a cell, but I know in my dream brain that it is my office. And my daddy taught us when we were little kids that you always hang your hangers with the hanger going the same direction so that if there's an emergency, you can scoop your clothes together, pull them all off, and then run, okay? So in my dream office, which is kind of a bedroom office, I turn, and here's the closet to my right. And I notice that all of the hangers are hanging in the same direction. My dream brain tells me that means, Kathy, you're losing your job at this company. So I go further into my concrete office, and here is my rollaway bed, and it's folded up and rolled away, okay? So I go outside of my office and run into my secretary, and I say to her, oh, she comes to me and she says, Bob wants to talk to you. And I say, why didn't Bob tell us? My dream brain says, why didn't Bob tell us we're losing our job or I'm losing my job? And then the dream ends. I write it down. Oh, it was just a dream. I go back to go to sleep. Then something weird happens. The next day I get up, and there's a phone call from the secretary who I had had a dream about the night before, and she says, Kathy, Bob, the executive vice president, wants this day not to pass without you calling him. I knew what it was about because of the dream. So he calls and he says, Kathy, we need you to come home to Salt Lake City immediately. And I said, oh, what's going on? And he said, oh, I can't tell you, you'll get emotional. He didn't know me, did he? I said, oh, Bob, I already know what you're going to tell me. He said, well, the company has gotten into some troubles and we're shutting down immediately. You need to come home. And I said, well, Bob, I think it'd cost another plane ticket because I've already got a round trip ticket. Why don't I just come home on the regular flight and I'll see you when I get there? So, because that allowed me to put the transaction on my terms and not on panic terms. So I went, took my regular flight, went home, decided, now let me precede this. I had a girlfriend who was responsible for the investments of the company. And people at the top knew things were going bad, and I'll tell you what they were doing, and I won't name the company. It was a very exciting company in a very exciting new industry, not new. And the head people were going, oh, and they got caught. And they went to prison ultimately. So that's what's going on, and I think they had an idea that's what was going to happen. So they started pinning the problems on other people, like my friend who was over the investments. And I'll never forget what they did to her. She walked past my door before this trip I just told you about with her little box of items, sobbing. Big police officer standing next to her. He'd come into her without her knowing what was going on. Ma'am, get all of your items together. I will escort you outside the door. And he did. And my darling friend was just sobbing as she's carrying. It was humiliating and horrible. So I'm thinking, is that what they're going to do to all of us, even though we didn't have anything to do with the fraud? So I got off the plane late at night and decided I'm going to, on my own time, go clear out my desk. So I went to the security guy. Hi, Tom, Kathy, how are you? I said, I'm just going to put together a few things in my office. So I put together a few things in my office, separated what was mine and what was theirs, and with calmness was going to come back in the morning and walk out with a smile. Got the picture? So the next day I come back. This friend that I told you about from Tennessee, whom I'd met in the public power industry, called me. And he said, how's it going, Kathy? I said, not well. We've had better days. And then I explained to him what was going on. And I said, you know, in my perfect world, again, you guys, the dream, the vision, what do you really want? I said, in my perfect world, I'd be a speaker, but I have no idea if you can even make money at it or how you would get started or anything. And my friend said, oh, I know the owner of a speakers bureau here in Tennessee. Let me connect you with him. Are you understanding critical connections in your life come about when most unexpected? Are you behaving in ways that when somebody sees you behave, they always are thinking, man, this guy is so amazing. Someday I'm going to offer him a job because he is awesome. Are you behaving that way, performing that way all the time? I called the man, the Speakers Bureau, and this is something I now know was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. Hi, this is Kathy Loveless. I would like to be a professional speaker. Well, they only deal with professional speakers who know how it's all done. Well, I was too dumb to know. And that's when they said, well, you need to get involved with the National Speakers Association. We think they're in Arizona, blah, 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 and you need to get a demo video, blah, blah, blah. This is, again, before internet, so I telephone dial 411, information, anybody remember that? You guys are so young. 411, hi, is there a National Speakers Association in Arizona? Yes, let me connect you. And then it just so happens, they pick up the phone and say, oh, in 7 days in Atlanta, Georgia, we are going to hold our national convention where we will teach you how to build a speaking business. So what I realized when I went home that night is when you're unemployed, all of a sudden junk mail becomes very important. I'm going through my junk mail. Here is an advertisement from Marriott Corporation. It reads, in only the following 5 cities worldwide, Marriott Corporation will give you 3 free nights if you have 30 frequent stayer points. And I had 30 frequent stayer points, and one of those cities is Atlanta, Georgia, Marriott Marquis. I thought, can I luck out and maybe get a free air flight? 30,000 frequent flyer points was all I needed, and I had it. And this is in the olden days when Delta would actually overnight you a ticket personally. I got on the plane, and in 7 days, I landed in Atlanta, Georgia. And they give you a tag, Kathy Loveless, first timer. And they come up and they say, oh, Kathy, you're a first timer. What do you speak on? And I said, energy. And he says, oh, I know somebody at the New York Power Authority. Let me give you his name. He can help you. I thought, 3,000 speakers, and I've just met the nicest one. Then I go stand over by the elevator, and a man comes up. Oh, Kathy Loveless, first timer. What are you writing your book? I'm thinking about it. Come sit down, and I'll tell you the 10 mistakes I made so that you don't make them too. I thought, my goodness, I have just met the second nicest person in this 3,000 person group. What I then realized is these people had discovered what I hope you discover here in this beautiful city of Orem, and that is we don't need to compete with each other. We need to build each other, help each other to make this the greatest city on the planet. Because when you work together, that's when you can make amazing things happen. So I had to buy dinner in Nashville to this friend who so many years ago connected me with the people I needed to talk to get to the career I wanted. Do you see the pattern I'm trying to share with you? So that you can understand there are amazing things that can happen out there if you open yourself up for that amazing opportunity that's just waiting for you to bite on it. Everything counts. Visualize. Who wants to throw out an idea of what you think I mean by the devils? What are the devils? Any ideas? Thank you. Doubts. Hand over here. Doubts. Negative thoughts. Is there a person in this room who does not have them? We have these devils. Oh, you're not good enough to do this. You're not smart enough. You didn't get that graduate degree. You didn't even graduate from college. No, you don't have enough experience. Your great uncle thought you were a bummer, so maybe that's what you really are. All of those devils. And what we have to do is start knocking them off and stop listening to them. They want us to be low, medium, crappy performers. That's what they want from all of us. So get rid of your devils. When I work with my mentees, one of the first things I have them do is I say, sit down and I want you to write 10 times I want. I want you to think about this for just 2 minutes. I want you to think, and if you've got something to write down on or a cell phone, I want you to think of just 5. Think to yourself, I want. I want. I want. I want. I want. Does anyone want to share an I want? You can make it a safe one in this group. Anybody? Your child's happiness. That's a beautiful I want. It's your child. Do you think you have the power to start that process? Of course you do. You are the dad. You've heard me talk about my dad. Growing up as tall as I was always a foot taller than everybody. My dad was 6'2", and my mother was 5'8", which was enormous for her generation. Mama didn't have anyone telling her that 5'8" was wonderful, because what's she going to do about it, right? So my mom was just kind of didn't like being so tall, and in her era, 5'2" and eyes of blue, little tiny blue-eyed blondies was what was beautiful, not tall brunettes. My daddy told me all the time. His phrasing for that era was, "You're a tall drink of water. Stand up straight. You can be that father to your children." Anyone else want to share? What do you want? Nobody take a risk? Yes, thank you. Wonderful. Is that in your power? Absolutely it is. We'll talk later. Okay, identify your wants. Get specific. Roving generalities don't do it. You've got to be very specific. What's the next step? What is the path you need to take? Write it down and post reminders about it. Post reminders. That means if it's on your bathroom mirror or it's in a notebook or somewhere, you remind yourself of where it is that you're headed and then honor those. Second principle is learn to pivot. Change directions when you are forced to. Change directions when what you have been doing doesn't work anymore. But don't keep doing the same old thing that's not working and think it's going to suddenly start working. It doesn't work that way. So let me share with you some stories about pivoting. We have to pivot on the major things, on the minor things, and in all aspects of your life. Pivot is important. I'm speaking in Toronto, Canada. It's a lovely city, and like we who are on the road a lot have to get used to, I had to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning the next morning to catch my flight from Canada to Washington, D.C. I was flying there to present a program in Washington, D.C. My client was the Central Intelligence Agency, and the day was 9/11/2001. Everything went fine in the flight. I landed in Washington, D.C. a little after 8 a.m., and I go get my luggage, and I'm standing in the rental car line, and people are moving forward slowly. Suddenly, a man in front of me turns around and says, we don't know each other, but we make friends fast. He turns and he says, "Look what just happened. An airplane has crashed into one of the Twin Towers." What did everybody think at that time? Accident, absolutely right. Oh, how terrible that accident. We move forward in line a little bit more. He turns to me again and he says, "Oh my goodness, there's been another attack or another flight go into the Twin Towers." This is what we then began to start seeing. Now I'm at the counter, almost ready to talk to the man. All of a sudden, I get a phone call from my husband, who is here in Salt Lake, and he says, "Kathy, the Pentagon has just been hit. You better take cover." Now, I get to the car. My luggage up 3 flights of stairs, open the door, and here's the room that when you walk across the carpet, your feet kind of stick on the carpet. Got the picture? The towels are about this size. So I figure, okay, first of all, the CIA needs to know I'm here. So I contact them, or I try to. All of a sudden, I realize my cell phone is dead. So I reach for the room telephone, pick it up, and it is dead. So I go back downstairs to my friend Habib. "Excuse me, sir, are all the telephones in the entire motel down?" And he says, "No, You just did not give me $3 extra for me to turn on your phone. So I slipped in my credit card again to get my phone turned on, went back upstairs. Now I can call the CIA. Contacted my contact there. I said, I'm here. I'm ready to present the program that you have hired me to do, or if you need, I will change it to accommodate what's going on. And my contact said, do not show up. Do not come here. We are evacuating the CIA. Okay. So I guess I'm hunkering down here in this little motel room. So I'm really good at pivoting on the road. I pull out a drawer, my nightstand, put my files in it, open up my computer, and I'm going to get lots of work done. But I made one big mistake. Some of you may also have made that mistake when you were watching what was happening. I went over and turned on the television. And then I began to see what those people were doing to my country. And I was glued to what I saw. We'd not experienced this kind of thing in the mainland. Certainly we did at Pearl Harbor many years prior, but not on the mainland. People were attacking this amazing country. It was unbelievable. Everything now had changed. So I'm now stuck with no flights going out. And I happened to have a girlfriend in Northern Virginia, because I'd lived in Northern Virginia, and I called her. She was single, and I said, Dee, are you okay? She said, yes. I said, are you lonely? She said, yes. I said, would you like me to come stay with you? She said, yes. So I went, again, another critical connection where two people could be together supporting each other when it is a very difficult time. When they opened up the Washington, D.C. area, I went back to the airport, and it was interesting to me. There was a lesson in this. When I went and checked in the rental car, they said, where did you rent this from? And I said, oh, right here. Why? And they said, because we are having people turn in cars from Los Angeles, Denver, because in a crisis, people would do anything to get home. Is home in its proper place in your life? Because in a crisis, that's where we all go. So I got on the flight, and it was unlike the flights I'd ever known in my life at that point. I get on the flight, the pilot gets on the front part of his messaging, and he says, ladies and gentlemen, none of you will get out of your seat for 30 minutes until we have flown past the Washington, D.C. area. And then we came back. Now, I came back to a very different world. I had probably 10 government contracts all over. I was being hired by the military to speak in Germany at all the military bases. The 7th Army Command hired me on statistical process improvement for the military. Everything was flattened out and went dead. Now, something interesting I learned, and I learned it from my friend and your friend, Dr. Phil, and that is, we take action. What happened is that when I got home, he was talking to an audience about like you, and people were saying, I am so scared, and I don't know what to do, and I am concerned about this, and this is happening. And Dr. Phil said, when you start having negative, those devils kind of thinking, he said, put a rubber band around your wrist and flip that rubber band and flip that idea out. And then I like to say, flip a better idea in that identifies success. So are we through with 9/11s? Oh, wait a minute. Several years later, it's something called COVID-19. What do you think that did to the speaking business? Totally flatlined us. Was there anyone here in which COVID-19 did not impact your business? It affected all of us. It didn't impact yours? I love it. But it did affect your business. It improved it. So what is a negative for some people is not a negative for others. That's an important lesson too there, isn't it? Okay, so Dr. Phil taught us. In my case, here's what happened with COVID-19. I mean, we were used to speaking to big, fancy audiences. And we have a group called the Forever Miss Utahs. We love each other. We get together every year at the Miss Utah pageant, and they bring us oldies out and give us a rose. See, I got a rose there. They give us a rose, and they clap politely, and they go, oh, then she gained a lot of weight. We know. But we love each other, and we're all engaged in charitable, helping society kinds of activities after the pageant. But we're used to big audiences. Now, this was my audience during COVID, a camera, and that's what we got. We know that the third principle is work harder and smarter. What I'm going to do is take a little break here for a second. Have everybody on the front row stand up. Everybody on the third row stand up. And every other row, stand up. And I want you to turn around, and maybe if there's somebody standing behind you, I want you to take a minute and introduce yourself to them if you don't know them, and I'm doing it row by row because often you sit next to people you know. Introduce this person to you, and then I want you to share with them some of the I wants that you've had, some of the ideas about pivoting and change. Just take a few minutes and do that. I want you to come away meeting somebody you don't know. You two guys, I know you, I'm going to hook you up. You two guys talk to each other. Okay, let's come back. I hate to interrupt. Some of you are so animated, it looks like you're having wonderful conversations. Do you know each other very well, or did somebody meet somebody they haven't met before? You did? Wonderful. What did you learn about that person? Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I was at this conference recently, and I don't want to be disrespectful of younger people, but the person on stage was talking about if you want to get ahead in life and you don't want to work harder, you don't have to. What? You don't have to work harder, she continued. And I shut down about then. I thought if I had lived my career and my life not working harder, I would not have seen and done the things I've done. I think working harder and smarter is imperative. And to let the young'uns tell you differently might be a misdirection of receiving your advice. What I've learned is that it is imperative to work harder. As I said, this is where I was 2 nights ago. And there they are, the Oak Ridge boys. Elvira, who knows the song? Who can sing it? Anybody? Can you sing it? Look at these guys. Look at this dude. Look at that beard. Do you think he's 22? They've been around a while, and they are still getting all of us up out of the audience, cheering and clapping to Elvira. They were absolutely awesome. This sweet man in the white shirt actually lost his balance and fell over. So, you know, continuing to go, even when you're fabulous, is not going to be without its stumbles. That's how life works. But it was wonderful and beautiful. One speaker joined a year ago. She was young, told the audience, if you don't want to work hard, don't. I'm in the $1 Million Speaker Group of the National Speakers Association. Do you think I got there because I didn't work hard? Let's not be delusional about what it takes to be successful in our lives. National Speakers, $1 Million Speaker Group. I train people on the skills it took to get to this group. What you had to be, what it meant is you had to make $1 million in a single year in order to be admitted to this group. And we meet all over the country before a big conference of 3,000, and sometimes there's only 20 of us in that group. Do you want to be in the group of 3,000 who don't work very hard or not as hard as the people in the 20? Payoffs are enormous. And especially because today with technology, you can scale your efforts tremendously like never before. There's a lot of fun for people who have figured out that you do have to work harder and smarter. I've already said I worked at Washington, D.C. I'm going to tell you a story of one of the early times I learned this lesson. And I'm going to add that working harder and smarter includes always asking, who can I serve with my efforts? So I'm working in Washington, D.C., editor of the national magazine Reclamation Era. I'm loving it, doing lots of fun, interesting, fascinating things, political scientist. I'm in the mecca of politics. I'm very happy. I hear my boss day after day, kind of mumbling about some financial problems, meaning technology is changing and we all need video and we have these 7 regional offices throughout the United States, and each of them needs a public affairs operation where they can do videotaping and all of the things that are now required for a media operation in each of the Bureau of Reclamation's 7 regions. And he's kind of stewing, and I'm listening. I'm listening to his concerns, what he's worried about. It just so happens the next day I was leaving to go to Chicago to get some training in my field. And before I left, I thought, I wonder if I could help my boss. So, and you guys don't laugh too loudly, but in those days you didn't have laptops. So I went to our purchasing department and I said, is there any chance you can arrange for me to have a typewriter sent to my hotel room in Chicago so that at nights I can work on some ideas to help my boss? He made it happen. And so I checked into my hotel room and I get a knock on the door, and here's a guy, literally a cart with this electric typewriter. He's wheeling that into my room. Now I can go to my training during the day, and I can start brainstorming and creating something for my boss at night. Also remember, these are the days when you had to type correctly because there was no delete, delete. You had to type it correctly every time. So I wrote up a 10-page document that I thought might address the issues. Went back to Washington, D.C., and I said, Jim, I had some time in the evenings. I've heard your concerns about what we could do in the Bureau of Reclamation. Let me give you what I put together. And he thanked me, went into his office and shut the door. I went about my business. Now, in the interim, my husband worked for the senior Senator Wallace F. Bennett from Utah, and he was going to law school at nights. He'd already gotten his law degree. I was still in the midst of my master's. I finished my master's. He was still doing law degree. This is all at nights. We'd get up at 6 in the morning, drive together because we only had one car. He'd drop me off at Interior. He'd go up to Capitol Hill. Then I would walk over to American University. He'd go to Georgetown University, then at 10 o'clock at night, he'd pick me up. I finished my master's degree, he was still in the law degree, so I started a doctorate, and I was still in my doctorate. He finished his law degree, so he went for an LLM in tax law. Got the picture of 2 very busy people. So he's now finished with all of his degrees. He's ready to head west. He wants to go get a job out. He didn't like DC nearly as much as I did. So he got a job in Denver, home Robertson Owen. And I went in and told my boss, and I said, we're going to be leaving. Now, he comes out of his office after I have given him this 10-page idea, and he looked at me and he said, Kathy, don't leave the Bureau of Reclamation. If you will stay, we will create a public affairs service center in Denver, Colorado, and have you operate the 17 Western states public involvement program, and we'll have the government pay for your move. Now, we're going to make you in charge of the PR part of it, Kathy. Critical connections, demonstrating to others that you're not in this just for you, you're in it to solve their problems. You've got ideas, you're willing to work, and you're willing to work hard. Next story. It's important that you know your client's business as well as your own business. And who are your clients? Your clients can be coworkers. Your clients, in my case, happened to be my boss. It was who I was serving. Clients can be people who come and use the services of Orem City. Those can be the clients, but you've got to know everyone's business. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be flexible and willing to modify your original approaches, ideas, and plans. It's that whole pivot idea, as I suggested earlier. We've got to pivot when things are going to change, because they are going to change constantly. Customize everything. I didn't write a proposal for my boss that was general and didn't apply to the Bureau of Reclamation. It was absolutely specific to the concerns I heard him articulating, to what I knew the Bureau needed, to deal with this new future that's coming for all of us. It's coming for all of us. We know that we have to also be willing to swim upstream. I've long time learned, just like so many times, that if everybody's turning right, I probably decide to turn left. I'm not a pack follower. The pack is what causes us to have a distribution curve in which most people are in the middle. I want to be on the winning side of the fringes. I'm such a nerd that when they show the weather report at night and they show the distribution of how many days at 70 degrees, how many days at 80, I'm always noticing it creates a normal distribution. Who else notices that? I got to have a confession. I got appointed to the Central Utah Water Conservancy District Board of Trustees just recently. And I have a beautiful 5'2" blonde granddaughter. And I said, Maddie, I've got a room. We're going to go to the Utah Water. But the best prepared. Are you the best prepared to walk into that vision that you've been thinking about and that you have created? I think life in its unpredictability is a little bit like this demonstration here. I have in front of me 3 cups. Pretty empty, 3 cups. Would you say that's what that looks like? 3 empty cups. And we think we know what's going to happen if I were to take a drink of water, as you have seen me do, and I take a bit of this water, and I put a little bit in this cup right here. We know that, as I've suggested, we have to pivot. And life changes, and things happen, and 9/11 occurs, COVID occurs. We have the wettest year when I'm with the Bureau of Reclamation, and State Street turns into a flood. They've literally got a bridge over State Street so people can walk over it. I'm the public affairs officer getting calls from every country in the world. And I remember vividly, after it all subsided, I took barges of the media down to Glen Canyon Dam. Let me tell you what we had to do. The river, Lake Powell, was so full, they had to add 8-foot flashboards to the top of the dam because it was just getting too full. Finally, that was not going to work anymore. They had to open the spillway gates. Now, they'd never done that before either. And so the water came gushing out, and the spillway is, if the spillway's up here, there's an arm like this, and then water comes shooting out when you open up the spillway gates. Everybody with me? And in the arm, something started happening called cavitation, which means that the process of water going out started sucking concrete out of that spillway and spewing it out. And as the concrete is being spewed out, a bigger and a bigger and a bigger hole is being eaten into the side of the hillside. When it all subsided and it was safe, I took barges of media down the canyon, and we entered in through the spillway entrance and floated up to that barge, to that elbow where all of the cavitation had occurred. What I saw was astounding. I stood in front of a 3-story hole in the wall that had been created by there being so much water come out of Lake Powell. Now contrast that with what we're seeing today, only a few years later. Okay, it's a couple of decades. Who's counting? I'm not. Isn't life unpredictable? How many of you have been watching what I'm doing? How many of you think the water is in this cup? Say yes. How many of you say the water is in this cup? Say yes. Yes. Therefore, how many of you think the water is in this cup? Say yes. Just like water in Utah, it doesn't exist anymore. Unpredictability is the nature of our lives these days. We cannot anticipate that what we thought is going to be what is going to continue to be. It doesn't work that way. Working harder and smarter means, oh, you guys, it's not easy. It means the highest level. It means operating and functioning at the highest level of an organization or an endeavor. Don't come here saying good enough is good enough. Come here and say, how can I truly make a difference to the wonderful people of this city? How can I make a difference to my colleagues with whom I work? How can I change something? You have the power to change. It means understanding the buck stops with you. Don't keep passing the buck, oh, it's somebody else's problem, it's somebody else's fault. My boss on that day didn't say, Kathy, will you please create a proposal for how we can create a public affairs service center in Denver, Colorado? Did he say that to me? No. I just knew that's what he needed, and I probably could help. The buck doesn't stop. The greatest expectations of performance, heightened expectations and responsibility are found at the highest levels of most organizations. You can do this. Absolutely, you can. High consequences for failure. The consequences of failing to meet the higher expectations are also greater. There's less room and tolerance for errors. We've all seen the stories of Challenger. At this conference I was just at was a space expert who was at NASA during the Challenger. How many of you remember where you were when Challenger went down? Do any of you? Yes, we remember. Lives were lost. Tiniest little thing went wrong. We don't have room for error. You've got to be seeking to do the very best you can. I created, when I was with the Bureau of Reclamation, what I called the Central Utah Project Experience. Because after being the public affairs officer for many years, I realized there are people out there who really hate us. They really hate these damn people, and they don't want us building more of those damn dams. And then there are people who, of course, understand what we do, and we couldn't live without our water projects. Let me just add this thing. I wrote my doctoral dissertation on Western water resources, and I knew I was in trouble. When the Louisiana came in and said, well, Ms. Loveless, why do you all build those reservoirs out west? And it only got worse from that point on. So we know that everybody doesn't understand what we do. So I created what I called the Central Utah Project Experience. It was a 3-day, 2-night adventure to see all of our dams and our reservoirs. Keith McCord and Carol Makita came with us. So we had Rocket Rod Decker. Anybody remember Rod Decker? He was with us. And we went and saw all kinds of projects. I took a big busload of people, had a whole big handout workbook. They could really understand what we did. But at night, I purposely took the people who hated water development with the people who loved it. And I said, okay, you're going to be the cutter-upper of the carrots. You're going to chop up the potatoes. And we did Dutch oven cooking out on a fire. And what do you think happens when people are starting to work together on a single task that does not highlight their differences? Do you think they start better understanding each other? They start having a conversation? That's precisely what happened with the Central Utah Project experience. It was remarkable what happened. Remember, everything counts. 51 years after starting in Washington, D.C. for the dam builders, I was appointed to the Central Utah Water Conservancy District Board of Trustees. I've already said that. And my daughter thinks I'm a nerd because I talk about water treatment plants and stuff. But that's okay. It's okay. I want to tell you about this lovely woman who was one of the first people I met when I went to my first board trustee. Did anyone know Lisa Anderson? Nobody knows Lisa. You do. You tell her I, woman of my word. I talked about her today. I walked into that district office and this wonderful, energetic, kind woman greets me. And she is obviously on top of her job and thinks her job is the most important job for the district. And see, I notice things like this. And she wants to make sure that as a new trustee, I go get my photograph taken, that I have all the materials I need, and I got to fill out these forms, and I've got to do these. And please call me, Kathy, if you need something more. And I just am watching her. And I watch her through several days and different encounters, and I am amazed at what she does. She's the executive assistant to the top people. This woman knows how to take her job, and it doesn't matter what your job is. Do you take it seriously and want to be the best at it so that if a Kathy Loveless or somebody who's observing you does, and we are, we will say, man, I want to put her picture in my presentation about how wonderful it is, no matter where you fall in the organization, that you take your job as seriously as you can and you do an excellent job at it. I love her. I think she's amazing, and I didn't know her a few months ago. Can you be a Lisa in your organization? It matters how we speak to each other. I want to share with you an interesting story I learned. There is an irrigation district in California called the Imperial Irrigation District. Any of you heard of it? You have? It is massive, right on the border of the US and Mexico. I used to say I would fly into San Diego and then go back 20 years to get there. Because they do their job so excellently, you and I up here in Utah in February have fresh fruit because of the awesome job they do. Well, again, critical connections. I happened to meet a man who was on their board at just a dinner. And I said, how you doing? What's going on in the Imperial Irrigation District? And he said, oh, it's terrible. We've had to change our general manager. We're trying to figure out how to get one. And I said, oh, I have a seminar on selecting general managers. And he said, will you come present to the board of directors? I said, I'd be happy to. And then I said, how long would you like me to take? Now, for those of you who know, when you present to a board of directors, it's maybe 5 minutes, right? And so he said, well, I'd like you to take an hour and a half. What did he want? He wanted a free training. Well, I've learned that it's okay in times, certain times, to give a free training. So I said, fine, I'll do that. And he said, come tell us what you can do for us. I said, okay. So I went down there and I gave my hour and a half free training to him. And then I gave him a proposal. And for discussion's sake, I'll say it was a proposal for 2 speeches, maybe 10,000 each, okay? This was a while ago. And one board member from Arkansas who was on that district board, after I finished, he said, "Ms. Loveless, we just love it when you all professionals come and speak to us, and you write up on those flip charts all your good ideas, and we just love what you have to say. And then you leave, and we go around the room and we take down those flip charts, and we pile them onto each other, and then we roll up that roll of flip charts, and we take that roll and we go over and we put it in the corner, Ms. Loveless. Ms. Loveless, our problems are a whole lot worse than that." What was he telling me? He was telling me that they had a lot of issues that a $10,000 seminar was not going to take care of. And I heard him. So I went back and I called the general manager the board member who had invited me, and I said, "I believe your organization needs more than what I presented. May I come again?" And he said, "Absolutely." So I fleshed out a massive $1 million contract that would take a lot of time. They had 1,500 employees, train all of the employees multiple times through all kinds of subjects. And I came back and proposed it. And what do you think they said? "When can we start?" So thinking small, thinking skinny, thinking little doesn't necessarily mean that's your answer. If solving their problem is what they need, and you can do it by thinking bigger. So this is some of the beautiful fruit they created. It was amazing. Now, when I started working with them, I was kind of appalled. I'm always listening. I would hear this person talking about that person who I'd now met, and they weren't saying nice things. And then I heard this person talking about that person, and I thought, that's not very professional. And so I started educating my groups on how we talk about each other and to each other. It matters. And I said, for now, we're going to play a game in this organization. It's huge. I mean, this place is huge. Multi-billion-dollar operation. Got the picture? I said, what we're going to do now is anytime you hear somebody out there dissing another person, saying a non-productive, non-beneficial statement about another person, you get to go zinger and just walk along, zinger, and then just keep going. The next time I went to Imperial Irrigation District and I was walking around the buildings, there's multiple buildings, I kept hearing zinger, 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 and I wasn't doing it. They had started to be trained to listen to how they talked to each other and what it meant. And they were catching on that it really does matter what we say about each other. 2 years ago, I was at the Colorado River Water Users Annual Convention in Las Vegas. I've been going to that forever. And the new general manager that I'd helped them hire came up to me and said, "Kathy, this was years later. Do you know that what you taught our people changed our lives? I'm going to write you a letter stating that." Now, in my business, testimonials are a good thing if they're good testimonials. This is what he wrote. "I observed a company culture that was divided on many fronts, staff to management, Hispanic to Anglo, and heavily influenced by nepotism. Through your work, you were able to address those cultural divides by teaching the more than 1,500 employees how to effectively interact. In essence, you single-handedly changed the culture. This made my job as general manager much easier as the organization became more productive and better served our customers." Michael Clinton, General Manager, Imperial Irrigation District, Imperial, California. Was that a change that helped people's lives? Did it help an organization? Are you performing in a way that somebody could write a letter like that about you? If not, you can. It's within your power. We know that doing the right thing always is the best approach. I think there is magic more than ever when we work together. So let me ask you, who here has a birthday closest to today? What is your date? 19th? All right, are we agreed that Tomorrow Lady is the closest? Come up here, Tomorrow Lady. Let's give her a hand. We have the, yeah, thank you. Come over here. Where is the microphone? Thank you. Okay, Tomorrow Lady, tell us who you really are and what you do. They love
I'm
you.
Holly
Let me just
Grierson,
tell you,
and
they all love you.
They love me. Okay.
They love you, and they're wonderful. Look at them. They're wonderful people. So you're just talking to your friends. Okay?
Okay. So my name is Holly Grierson. I work for the library, and I actually help schedule this building, and my office is just over here. So
Oh, awesome. Tell me your first name again.
Holly.
Holly,
Yes.
I love it. Now, Holly, do you think we get enough gifts on our birthday?
No.
No, we don't. I think you should have a gift. But now here's the, no, wait for it. I want you to just hold on to this, okay? Now, I know this is going to become an antiquated question, but I'll go with it for now. Does anyone in the room have a new $1 bill? New $1 bill, or relatively new? Anybody got a dollar bill? Raise your hand. Okay, come on up. Come on up. Nope, you have to come all the way up. We got to learn who you are. You're going to give this to me? Come over here, stand over here. And I am going to give you something that you probably have never seen before. I'll let you hold this. All right, you have the microphone? Okay, that's all right. Tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Jason Neely, and custodial supervisor for the city.
And is that an important job?
I believe it is.
It's an awesome job. Let's give him a hand. Let's give Holly a hand because she scheduled this room for us. Okay, now I would like you, Jason, to open this and pull out what's in it. Show everybody. Okay. Will you show people what that is? Does anyone know what this is? Printed money. Have any of you been to the Mint in Washington, D.C.? You can buy these. And this, do you think that's real money or fake? It's real money. What is the single identifying element of a dollar bill? Oh, you're so smart here. I have people say, the one, it is the serial number. Okay, now who's our smartest numbers person here? Somebody who's really smart in numbers. I'm getting fingers pointed. Somebody volunteer who's good at numbers. Brandon, where's Brandon? No, okay, come here, Brandon. I'll let you come down here just a little bit. I don't want to stand in front of you. Yeah, okay. All right, Brandon, tell us who you are. Let's get the microphone.
Brandon Nelson, I'm the finance director.
Oh,
Orem.
how much better can it get? Okay, single identifying element
I'm
of
a tax accountant as well.
Oh, shoot. It's too much. Heart be still. Okay, single identifying element of a dollar bill. Will you take his dollar bill and write the serial number in big letters on this board.
I didn't know I need to bring my glasses.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have an assistant who can come help?
Oh, I do have an assistant.
Okay.
Hey, Chang.
Okay. See, isn't that wonderful? We can count on each other when we need
I've learned to
help.
delegate.
That's excellent. Okay, Chang, you come up here. You're on the spot.
Want from the eye?
Yeah, right.
that's fine.
You got to tell us who you are. Tell everybody who you are.
Chang Ban, accountant.
And your role here is?
Reconciling the transactions.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Awesome. All right, just write down the serial number, as big letters as you can here. Starting with the... This is rocket science. And then is there a number after the or letter? Okay, I'm going to repeat it back. You check it. This is where we do double checking of our work, right? I, 7, 5, 5, 8, 1, 5, 9, L, right?
Correct.
Okay. What we have learned is that life is unpredictable, that things don't add up to what we want them to. They don't show up the way we want them to show up. They aren't what we think they are.
Do you have any fire inspectors in the house?
Got more money what? He's got a whole row of them. Yeah, but they didn't come from this guy, did they? Life falls apart, often in front of our own eyes. Families fall apart, marriages fall apart, jobs are lost. 9/11 happens, COVID happens. How long do I have to go on, right?
Don't freak out, Jason.
What? Am I getting... Thank you, thank you. Okay, all I have are ashes. How many of you at any point in your life kind of felt like all you had was ashes? Birthday girl, come over here. Let's have you open up what's in your bag. We have an orange, I'll help you. Another orange, that's my French work. A knife, a napkin, all right. Now, would you like to pick an orange? Which one do you want? Just
pick the right one, Holly.
That one's yours. This one's mine. Did you pick the freshest one? Is that what you did? That's okay, it's okay. I grew up poor. We didn't have oranges. That was what my mother in Scipio, Utah got on Christmas when it was really special.
I already don't believe it.
Where's my friend? Where's my friend? Did he already go back?
Yeah.
You come on back here.
I can read this.
Will you?
Thank you very
hold
much.
that and read out loud the serial number you see on that dollar bill. Everybody checking.
I 7 5 5 8 1 5 9
Supposed to read that, not this.
L.
Let's give them a hand. Let's give all of you a hand. Thank you. It does smell like oranges. Thank you all very much. Let's give them another hand. They're awesome. Oh, come here, come here. Remember I said you got to be honest in all ways?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You are the magic in making this wonderful city be outstanding. You have the capability to magically make money, happy customers, opportunity, great things happen. Let me just say, we've all seen way too much news these last 2 years of how cities are deteriorating, the horrible things that are happening in cities. You have the power to not let that happen to this amazing city of Orem. My best to you, and please know the magic is in you. Thank you.
Thank you again, Kathy, for being here and for your remarks. A lot of very good points that all of us, I know, can think about and how it applies to us here at Orem City. So let's give Kathy another round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you for being here today. We do have Kona Ice parked out this way. All right, they're in the little south parking lot. So go ahead and make your way over there and again, mingle with each other. Talk about the things that we've learned today or the things that have come to mind. So again, thank you and have a great day, you guys.